Hey, good morning, one and all. Happy Wednesday. My fourth video in 4 days. I don't usually do this, but my friend Gary challenged me. But don't get used to it, because I got other stuff. I got other fish to fry, as they say. I wanted to go over the Legion of Superheroes and how I finally took an interest in the characters. When I was growing up, uh, I didn't. I thought they were kind of silly, and especially the names. Chameleon Boy, Lightning Lass, all these other. Everybody was a girl or a lass or a boy, um, and or lad, Lightning Lad, and it just struck me as silly. And the stories just didn't really do much for me. I mean, they're quaint, and they're actually probably a good reread if you want something simple and fun from the past. It had a huge audience that followed it for years. It started off, I think, in Adventure Comics with Superman, where like three of these heroes from the future are voting on whether Superman's guilty or able to join or not. And then it was like a backup feature in certain books, or it might have been. It wasn't. They didn't get their own title till 1977, when Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes became the Legion of Superheroes, and Superboy went back to his own time instead of the 30th century where the Legion resides. Uh, anyway, this came out, it says in 2010, but I'm not sure, because I remember this came out right about the time of the New 52, which was years later, and beautiful Keith Giffen cover. Beautiful. That's just wonderful. And it's all new for the trade. A lot of times back then, I mean, way before, how can I put it? Most of the time they do a trade paperback collection. They use one of the covers from the books that are reprinted therein. I used to think, oh, I'd love to see original cover. But, if if you reuse a cover from the inside, it helps the potential reader, to say, "Oh, okay, I love that storyline. I'll pick that up," because maybe they picked up the first couple issues and they were waiting for the trade. They see the trade has the same cover, so they snatch it up. Okay, now this is an all-new cover. This is taken from the interior, with a nod to the Sistine Chapel with the creation of Adam on the ceiling, which is really clever. Reprints. 284 to 296 and annual number 1. However, there's one more story that I think came out, was reprinted, that was not mentioned in here. Okay. I'm just sort of jumping ahead. It starts off with some Pat Broderick artwork, and it's inked by Bruce Patterson, who is, excuse me, Paul Levitz actually wrote this book for a long time, and he made me love the Legion of Superheroes. His stuff was so enjoyable, and he managed to balance like 20 different characters. In some issues they would show up, some issues they didn't, and be a mix and match. And then sometimes when something really heavy came down, they'd all join in. Pat Broderick, penciler from. Oh gosh, he did last year of Captain Marvel with the Kree Captain. He did some Planet of Vampires issue, and I think he was part of Neil Adams' continuity studio. And he did some bits here and there. He did a couple of Marvel team ups here and there, and he finally really got his break on the Micronauts, a monthly series, and he sort of helped save it, because the first year was flawless golden. Second year had very loose Howard Chaykin layouts. I was excited about Chaykin, but it was just banged out by Al Milgrom. I mean, it looks awful. And though I wish they'd reprint all those Micronauts books, it wouldn't break my heart if they did a truncated version or cut out the second year, because the third year, Broderick really brought it back to form. And lots of fun going on. Now, the inker Bruce Patterson, I don't know what happened to him. I love his stuff. This is late 70s. I I remember he did, the only credits I could think of was when he did Green Lantern, when Hal Jordan quit and John Stewart took over in the title around issue 180 or something like that. Bruce Patterson's name popped right out at me. And Patterson was actually good enough, deemed worthy enough to ink some Brian Boland pages for Camelot 3000, which is just, it just shows you the guy was amazing. I don't know where he'd gone to. I may be talking from ignorance, but his stuff was just really, really, everything he did was it was always good. Here's the thing, though. Much as I do like Larry Malstead, but Bruce Patterson's inking here kind of clears up some of the Broderick tweaks or habits. Broderick had a perchance to draw faces fluffy, like kind of fluffy and kind of, I don't know, cartoony, I guess. But I know comics should be reading like cartoons. But if you see a lot of his stuff, you'll know what I mean. I love that. And I mentioned in an earlier episode about heroes that are too powerful to join teams. That is Exhibit A. So now we go into some really kick-ass Keith Giffen. Keith Giffen took over his strip. Let me see. Yeah. And he hit the ground running. That's just wowie. See this still Patterson? Yeah, and some kid named Adam Kubert was the letterer. And Joe Kubert's son, learning the ropes from the very bottom up. Not to mean as an insult to letterers. I love letterers, but Kubert was taught all the disciplines. That's really wild. Now you have to understand, this is like 1980, okay? This kind of stuff wasn't as common as it would be later. And I still didn't buy the book, but I do remember loving this cover. Extremely Kirby-esque. And the Legion gets a new logo. I mean, I think they've had it for a little while, but before that it was kind of bland. But that's a very Marvel kind of logo. And this is inked by Romeo Tangel. A lot of times I'm not keen on Romeo Tangel because he's sort of a tracer. Well, Patterson if I showed you this was Keith Giffen, would you really know it? Because they melded so well together. Garth, the electric lad, or whatever his name is, lightning lad, he has a fit. Garth. Yeah, not to be confused with Wayne's World. Element lad, yes. You're not deputy leader on the Legion anymore. You're a leader. Huh? I'm resigning. That kind of shit happened a lot. They put as much effort into leadership, co-leadership, and that every few issues as if it was one of the biggest deals of all, even though they're fighting major threats. There's that god-awful, like, a Cosmic Boy costume where he's, like, partially naked and he looks sort of like an S&M enthusiast. My girl came up with that, and it's like, what the? Love that. Giffen storytelling. Wow. And Giffen was not shy about using color holds. I have to explain this every episode because every episode is someone's first. Like they say about comic books. This is way before computer coloring. This kind of stuff was done. It was inked on overlay, and the original art even has like a flap for reproduction purposes if they choose to reproduce it again. Now, I'm not really into Legion yet, but they are catching my eye. This cover is just draws you in. It's so brilliant. And I like how the stars continue into the logo. Now, this is 60 cents. This is like about 1980 or so. But back then, even though the comic prices went up, the page count went up too. It went from 17 measly pages to 22 to 24 pages, which was wonderful. Some more Bruce Patterson action. He kind of also fleshes out the faces. You'll see later that Giffen sort of gives everybody a standard face where some characters look like each other with different hairstyles. This is my first Legion book that I bought. It just amazing looking cover. It's Giffen, and I think I know George Perez at the time was using colored pencils to do some of his color work on Teen Titans and elsewhere. So, but maybe there had to be some either watercolor or gouache or something that Giffen used on this, because this was more painted art than it was artwork that they just sent to the colorist and prayed for the best. And it starts off with this one gal named Swan. And what's good about this, though, is it's like the reader stepping in for the first time, and they're learning about the Legion of Superheroes. That's always a good setup. But here's those god-awful names I hated. Lightning Lad, Saturn Girl, Mon-El, which I don't mind that. It's like Kal-El, a very similar powers. Long story, I'll tell you later. Element Lad, Cosmic Boy, Light Lass, Dream Girl, Duo Damsel, Phantom Girl, Chameleon Boy, Shadow Lass, Shadow Ass, I almost said. Colossal Boy, Timberwolf, now he's cool. Wildfire, he's cool. Brainiac 5 and Dawnstar are cool also. Ultra Boy, Star Boy, Block, who I like, I'll show you later. Shrinking Violet, Sun Boy, and Bouncing Boy, who he can blow up big and bounce around. It's Silver Age silliness, but it's, as I got to read this, I got to understand why it was popular. It's not usually hard-edged stuff. It has sort of like a kid's wish fulfillment. Like, wouldn't you like to belong to this huge super team where they have meetings and they have voting for team leader and such like that? It's sort of that. It's kind of quaint, but Paul Levitz, he's been on this book a long time, and magnificent. He just did he's doing a miniseries for Marvel that has the Avengers, and I think it's work across time, and it's Levitz's first Marvel work, and it's a home run. And Alan Davis does the art. Go get it. Don't go to your local comic shop. Run, don't walk. Okay, now, and this is the other quaint thing from the old days where they spent a lot of time on their costumes changing, and I didn't see it. Well, yeah, back then I had a different costume. Like, Roy Thomas was big on that, which is funny. There he looks like Good and Plenty. And before you make any crude jokes, Good and Plenty is this candy that was candy-covered licorice pieces. And depending if you like licorice or not, it was really gross. But if there was no other candy in the house, you resorted to it. So, really nice stuff going on. Much better than the S&M outfit. Okay, here we go again. Not used, no computer color was used in the making of this book. They're playing virtually Dungeons and Dragons. And all of a sudden, the characters pop out and they start attacking both Sunboy and Starboy. And this young girl is possessed. What happened with her is they don't know how she got possessed, but her older brother, I gotta find him. He ends up being Invisible Kid. He gets the serum from the previous Invisible Kid, who I think died a while back. And that's it's Computo, the one who killed Triplicate Girl, one of her clones, and became Duo Damsel. So there's a bit of a major concern going on. Let me see. I'm trying to find a picture of the girl's brother. Oh, there he is. His name is like Jacques. He speaks it French and English, and his name is Jacques Faucart or something like that. And Block, who's this new character who sort of observes everything that's going on, kind of impartial, but he also has a sense of humor sometimes. Timberwolf. I'll tell you about more. Okay, there he is again, the brother. More beautiful color holds. And this is just something else. I wonder if Giffen did that, or if, I mean, they would have said otherwise, because this is about a couple of years before Elliot Brown at Marvel designed how Stiltman stilts work, and how the Avengers Mansion, Fantastic Four, Baxter Building, etc. So, apologize. Well, Brainiac 5, who is a descendant of the evil Brainiac that caused so much grief with Superman. He is being observed by Computo, and he's trying to be very careful. He has sort of like this, I don't even know what you call it, telepathic plug from his belt. And he tells Invisible, Jean-Luc, don't react. Sacre bleu, sacre clair. I don't know what that means, I'm sorry. But a couple of my favorite characters, nice panel. I love that. I mean, the pose. There's Wildfire and Dawnstar, who have a really good background. Wildfire is just pure energy who ends up in a containment suit. He's a sentient being of energy. And Dawnstar, she's sort of like she can track people across the universe, and she's a tracker. And I think that's because when they give you the frayed, what do you call that? The clothes, they were trying to tap into like a Native American type feel for her. And the two of them ended up in love, but it was a torturous love because he could never be human. And so it was more like an intellectual love. And it was just, I love that background. I love that idea. So now bear in mind, I did not give a shit about these guys until, there we go, another color hold. Someone had to just ink these, Larry Malstead, who's a good inker as well. And then you put the flap over, and then you ink the whole thing with, a lot of times it's frosted vellum. Or you could use regular vellum, but frosted is better for ink lines. Keith Giffen, Bob Layton, I think John Byrne, and a few others. Oh, Michael Golden from Microdots. They really took advantage of this kind of overlay stuff, and it's funny because the original art looks kind of wonky because it's got this overlay on it. But nonetheless, if you're a good enough artist, it'll show up well. So he's not invisible yet, but he's drinking some of the potion. This is your doing, Crater. For this treachery you die. Crater being Brainiac 5. Sweet stuff. And my best friend, Deerwood, recommended this to me, which is funny because he was a Marvel zombie much like I was. And he just said, well, once you get past the stupid names, it's really a good comic. But these guys were saddled with this name since, I don't know, the late 50s, early 60s. And they're having a meeting that Jacques Foucault, him, so he offers them membership. Here we go. And they're very formal back then, just like the Justice League and at times the Avengers as well. Nice. I still didn't buy this book yet, though. I bought the annual, and I was still kind of cautious. Love that. That is just really great. Giffen and Malstead, every month we're doing this kind of stuff. Love the costume. I didn't think about it till now, but it reminds me of Uma Thurman's costume in Kill Bill, which is based on Bruce Lee's costume from the mid-70s. But I don't think that's what they had in mind, because you didn't have a lot of video rental in that back then. It really, movie came on TV, it came on TV, or HBO. So these new threats start showing up, and they're silhouetted. And what's great is, I mean, if you don't have that cover, you don't know what's going on. And they did not tell you. They didn't foreshadow it was Darkseid. They didn't have like a Darkseid shaped silhouette where he starts speaking Kirbyisms. It was just nobody knew what was going on. It was a total disaster that was really building. One disaster after another. And here comes one of the. That sky gadget looks fairly familiar, but I wasn't a New Gods fan yet. I started comics after the Fourth World was completely done, and I knew nothing really of the New Gods except those incredibly boring-looking covers on first issue special and the revived series by Jerry Conway and Don Newton. Don Newton's a great artist, but I think his talents were completely wasted on Return of the New Gods. And Conway it was just another gig. It really didn't come off as exciting. And Conway could be really strong in places and kind of so-so in other places. Now, in the middle of all this shit that's going down, which has not been resolved, it's like, I asked you here to officially schedule our 13th election for Legion leader. And she goes, I'm in the running too. Wow, 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 wow. I just love that pose. It's so funny. Oh, here we go. We're getting a little closer, but you can't quite tell that's a Darkseid profile. It could be anybody. And bear in mind, Darkseid had been out. He's not the go-to villain anymore like DC has done in the past 20, 30 years. I think after the revived New Gods ended, and Secret Society of Supervillains also used him for a couple issues. Completely forgettable. If it's not Kirby or like if it's anything in the 70s other than Kirby, it's not canon for me. I'm sorry. It's just crap. And got some Kirby action going on there, but then you got a little bit of Michael Golden kind of. I mean, Giffen went from being a Kirby clone to his own personal Jesus. Dom dom da dom 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 ba dom ba dom. So here comes another one, and there's Mon-El. I bring him up because he has the same powers as Superman, and somehow I guess is a planet that has a planet of supermen and women who all have the same powers pretty much. He gets knocked out or knocked away. Briefly in the 2000s, they had a series called Valor, which actually was Mon-El's solo title. It lasted about 2 years, and it's got a pretty good fan following. And it's affordable. You look at the back issue of your comic shop, and you'll probably find them. Okay, so there's just a tremendous amount going on. Got that Kirby crackle going as the issues proceed. You're going to see more and more Kirby crackle. And is there ever really enough Kirby crackle? I say nay. And they're just jagging each other. I don't know what the deal is, but I didn't reread all this just to cover this. I scanned it. Some more of those demonic creatures. Sun Boy. Let's you just drop the boys and the girls just say Sun, Star. Well, here is Invisible Kid. And he gets blasted. Somehow he's still alive. I don't know why. I mean, that's okay. It's comics, you kind of go with certain things. Maybe he just got KO'd. This is a great effect, and in the next volume, which I will be reviewing, Giffen really and Malston both really play around with that effect of like the black line work on the costume strip, whatever you call them, like for special effects. Now, this is from the future. I know, 30th century, the future, right? This was done late 80s, early 90s, and it just got inserted in here because it's salient to the actual original era that I'd shown you, the earlier era. It's by Keith Giffen and Larry Malston. Now here's the thing, though. Here's the way you could tell. I love Keith Giffen. His Ambush Bug was fun, even though most of his stuff was swiped from Muñez's comic in Spain. But this was a period where he like fucking dared to get fired, or he fucking dared to have readers turn away. He does this knobby-nosed slight turn on everybody, and it's ridiculous. Okay, you got that going on. That, and let me see, and that, it's like enough. And so he's going snurk. Oh, yeah, right. That's that. Yeah, please. Okay, getting closer to the great. This is Darkness Transcendent, but this will be collected later. Be called the Great Darkness Saga. Really lovely stuff there. More action. Wildfire is one of the coolest fucking characters at DC, and I remember looking at other people's copies of Legion Superheroes and really falling in love with Wildfire. And why hasn't DC brought him back? I mean, they have cold feet when it comes to Legion Superheroes because they're sort of a throwback fun book, in mostly, except this, stories like this. And when they try to update them, which they did in the 2000s, 2010s, they made them really edgy, and the original fans, they rejected it. And so it's like a no-win situation. And maybe somebody someday will come up with a solution that makes everybody happy. There's Wildfire, gets blown away. Wildfire, sacre! I gotta look that up. They've blown him to pieces. And then later on, you'll see a lot of either profile shots or straight-on shots of the face. But if you're doing a monthly book and you have to do this much work, you got to cut corners where you can. And it's not really a crime. I mean, it fits. Also, Paul Levitz, Keith would later become a fantastic plotter, layout artist for many books. One of them was the weekly series 52, which I was a part of, inking Pat Olaf, and also just he did Future's End. He's just a go-to guy if you want to tell a good story that has a lot of moving parts. And I went through a whole post-it note pad going with this. I'm exaggerating. Not much. Great last panel. It's like, to me, DC was starting to catch up to the Marvel pizzazz, not the magazine that was designed for kids. I meant to show you this real quick. At the bottom is a Wildfire. On the left, he says, "I just got a fresh containment suit already," and it just tells you. I just love the whole concept. There we go, pulling on a Jim Steranko bit and doing so wonderfully. I totally dig that. Destroying that. Many people have destroyed logos since, but if it's done right, it looks fresh. Fresh as a goddamn daisy. Okay. And another color hold. So much going on there. From Superboy. Meanwhile, Chameleon Boy's in prison. Long story. But if you keep reading this book, it's more of a soap opera comic than pretty much any other superhero comic I've ever read. Because it has all these side stories. It has all these characters that get nudged to the side, or they're off planet doing other stuff. There's Karate Kid. Do the hologram thing with the overlays, and they're just kind of got nothing to say about that. Other than it's cool. Dawnstar gets yanked in there. The servants blast away at them. Wildfire lets out all his energy. Look how the costume kind of withers because he's just emptied his containment suit. That is so friggin' great. Then Superman comes and he has this microcircuitry dreamed up to give my powers even under a red star, working like a dream. But Meanwhile, on Mon-El's home planet, he grabs all the Daxamites, which is the Superboy powered Mon-El population, and he's going to use them to his own purposes. A little bit of Thor action there. Not Thorax, but Thor action. Come on. There we go. That's great. I love that. But Paul thinks of everything. I mean, he really does. And as far as 1980s, I think he brought it up to speed, but he didn't he kept the meetings and such. He didn't, his suit gets burned out, so he only goes one last clobber. So, here comes DARKSEID. Oh, he also had a planet made, terraformed into his image. Now, that's pretty fucking badass. To DARKSEID. Now, I have to admit, this is a little too... he looks like a regular superhero, or even a toy. He doesn't look bulky, he doesn't look rocky, except for his face, but we know he's rocky all over. And it's just, it's okay. It's underwhelming, but it didn't bother me so much because I started reading the book with this issue. There's a little granite puss. And some more Steranko Adam-esque, Neil Adams-esque stuff. Keith Giffen getting a co-plotting credit, which he was building up to, and Larry Malstead. I always want to say like a Malstead milkshake. And they're basically going over that Brainiac 5 finally figured out who it was, because DARKSEID hadn't been around for generations and hundreds of years. Supergirl shows up. Get to see some really delicious artwork there. And there's a spaceship that holds some people from Xandar or whatever Hawkman's homeworld is in. It has this epic scale that the Legion of Superheroes never had before. They had dramatic stories, but this was like end of the universe shit. And it was so cool to see that. And I liked that they were a Legion, that they could fight on so many different levels. So there's Shadow Lass smacking that guy into the next planet practically. Rainbow Kid, he was, these are the Legion of Substitute Heroes. He's like an Iceman character, and they usually get a big joke. They're usually like, they're substitute characters, and they have these stupid limitations, but, they're fighting, they're proving their worth. A little bit of Zipatone holding there. Love that stuff. Dot pattern for you youngins. I didn't want this to go too long, but you know what? It's Legion of Superheroes. It's probably their most legendary story. It deserves some time. So, there's Validus in a cameo. That's also like a Steranko, Neil Adams bit, but it doesn't look derivative at all. It's Keith's really playing with everything. That's the joy of reading this. That's just I cannot imagine what that page would cost. I mean, anything DARKSEID short of a Kirby issue, that's just perfect. He really, really just, you can tell he loved it. Doing the Zipatone to give like a little bit of, or is that a color hold? I don't remember. That's a color hold. Here's another one with the real Legion of Superheroes. Okay, you got Ultra Boy, Bouncing Boy, and Saturn Girl. So, well, Bouncing Boy is silly, but I read a lot of comics that have, to this day, that have silly characters. So, I just don't judge it as long as he's not written to take out the piss of the dramatic storytelling. He does have a serious side that he uses with the Legion. Wow. And he basically, there we go. There's the creation of Adam pose. And bear in mind, I did not know a damn thing about DARKSEID, because the follow-up to Kirby books, they were awful. They were just pedestrian. They made him look like every other villain. And so I never was impressed. But Kirby brought back the Kirby. I mean, Keith brought back the Kirby, and this mysterious character shows up to protect. Classic Kirby pose. In fact, I want to do an episode one time where this sort of pose has been used dozens of times, but it's always effective. I mean, it's super fucking badass. So, and their battle's raging. Really, really good. I mean, if Kirby had the chance to have the two of them duke it out, it would look a lot like that, I think. I would like to think. So, more lovable battling. He busted his headgear. Your tongue could seduce a planet of priests, DARKSEID, but not your own son. Oh, where do you go? Oh, there he is. He has a color hold. Hi, Father, I fulfilled the prophecy. A lot of stuff happens. He gets, you're my creation, my construct, my creature, not my boy, or not my son. So he gets torn down, and I guess it wasn't really dark. I have to reread this. Oh, maybe not. He could have just denounced them. Even High Father has limits, as have all, save I. Superman and Supergirl show up. And it's like they got tagged. It's like, okay, Ryan's out of the ring, your turn. Love that. Love that. And of course, you have to say male chauvinist in every book that's in the 70s, early 80s. And, I mean, granted, it's like, I mean, that's not good either, but I think, you know, murderer and other stuff would probably be along in that sentence. Because he's done a lot worse than that. Or you can put them all together. Still not good. Still not good traits to have. Nice color holds. Whoa! But DARKSEID's about to kill our Supergirl. But, here come the Legion in full force. You styled me, children. Karate Kid has this dopey idea to kick DARKSEID. You know, why don't you try kicking a wall? But that is great. That is great. And what happens is apparently the Daxamites, the Superboy powered characters, they're returning. They have the superpowers and they're going after DARKSEID. And so my powers have waned over the millennium while they focus on you. They proved insufficient for other needs, and my hold on the billions of Daxamites has ended. I've created an army of billions of super beings, and your allies are leading them to me. That's a great comeuppance. You have shattered the dreams of a god. It sort of reminds me a little bit of the Zack Snyder Justice League DARKSEID bit, sort of, but you know, except it doesn't take 4 hours to read this story. Yeah, motherfucker, we'll see you later. And all of a sudden, whoa! I leave you my curse, legionnaires, doers of Isaiah's work. The curse of darkness grows within you, destroying you from within, and that which is the purest of you shall be the first to go. And they're shaking in their booties. But things get back to normal. After so many issues and a couple of years, Brainiac 5 finally clues in that Supergirl has a major crush on him, like he had a crush on her. And but he blows it because he's smart, but he's not like emotionally smart. There's Timberwolf. Timberwolf was sort of he was just a regular fighter. I think I saw his first appearance drawn by George Tuska in a Legion of Super. It was Adventure Comics from the '60s, where Timberwolf, he was just like an acrobatic guy. I don't even know if Karate Kid was in the picture yet, but they made him into a Wolverine. Like when he really gets into a fight, his hair goes up like Wolverine shape. He gets red eyes, and these are sort of the Hank Pym, wasp sort of stuff. Really beautiful. So basically, they're trying to get back to a normal reality, and they still have like minor problems by comparison. There's a Matter Eater Lad, I think. Not to be confused with Fecal Matter Eater, who's just like the grossest Legion ever. Love this. And Levitz, he and Keith were just super close on. There we go. There's even the script. And Paul's just, he's a legend, and rightfully so. Some sketches by Giffen that kind of establish, a lot of people before they take over a series, they'll draw the characters. Now this, way before trade paperbacks became a thing, this came out in the early 90s, and it was an all-new cover at the time. It borrowed from the other interior cover, but it was dressed up a little more. I bought this, and it was pretty popular. It got reprinted a few times, and then mid-2000s, I think, Lee Bermejo redid the cover, and Lee Bermejo is just astonishing. His stuff is, I don't know, you don't hear about him a lot, but he's just a great artist, one of the best. Well, okay, next issue. Well, this is not for, it's hard to explain. Next issue, okay, I'll just get right to it. Bonus. The art originally appeared in the final pages of Legion of Superheroes 293, right after DARKSEID was revealed as the villain behind the Great Darkness saga, serving as a full-page ad for a double-size epic finale 294. And I guess they didn't use it. I don't know. So, hey, I know it's a long episode, like 42 minutes. I think it's my longest one. But if you're a Legion fan, if you're a DARKSEID fan, who's not a DARKSEID fan? Come here, you. If you're not a DARKSEID, I'm going to bury you in Post-it notes. Also, I managed to, when they relaunched DC Universe with Crisis on Infinite Earths, shortly thereafter, they came back with Legion of Superheroes. And I had developed an affinity for them. I thought they were pretty cool. And one of my first jobs at DC was a fill-in issue that focused on Pharaoh Lad. Bear in mind, all these Legionnaires of that era in the mid-90s, they were basically starting from scratch. They didn't count on old continuity. So Pharaoh Lad had actually died. It was a really big deal. In the late 60s, he sacrificed himself, and it was like very emotional. And it was so this new kid comes along, and he's Pharaoh Lad, and he's not necessarily a copy or the second Pharaoh Lad. He's Pharaoh Lad in the comics, and they find him sort of in a refugee camp, which is run by an Charles Xavier type character, where he collects all these super beings and he's trying to make them his own team, and he's kind of tormenting them until they swear obedience. And then the Legion comes along. I think that's it about. But I got to ink it. It was fun over Mike Collins, who is I think he's a Brit. So hey, I did this in one take. Now all I gotta do is say something really rude and really nasty and take it down. But off of YouTube. But no. Fun for all. Enjoy it. I'm going to be covering the follow-up Great Darkness after this story, and it's got a lot of wild stuff in it. Oh, and the paper of this is heavy as hell. It is so. The glossies. I get it. I know people like the glossy, but I'd rather have more of a matte finish. But this thing is heavy. So there's some other book collections I've had that done that. So anyway, if you like what you see, please hit like. And I've noticed I've been getting a lot of likes lately, and I'm so grateful to those who do and those who watch. And also, if you want to share with somebody who's maybe a Legion of Superhero enthusiast, that would be great too. And as always, leave comments below. Tell me your stories about the Legion, about DARKSEID, about what you liked, what you didn't like, what you liked about my episode, what you didn't like, and if I've screwed up on any of the comments I made, because I've referenced like dozens and dozens of different situations. But if you could correct me, that would be great, because I don't bat 1,000 on these things. I kind of wing it, and that's it. So you have a very, very good day. It's 12:11 here on the East Coast. I'm in sunny Georgia, and I'm wishing you goodbye, 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 goodbye. Much love.